Beneath the citadel of Isengard, in the caverns deep beneath its tower, the wizard Saruman has been breeding his own race of super orcs. The Urak-Hai, taller and straighter than men, massively muscled, black-blooded and lynx-eyed. And the Nazgûl, they were once great kings of men, to whom Sauron gave 9 of the rings of power, and with them the promise of eternal life and dominion. Their bodies and souls corrupted by the Dark Lord's evil, until at last they ceased to be human and became instead insubstantial wraiths, mounted upon their vast, black, flame-eyed steeds. They are known as the Black Riders. Recently, they have been seen in the vicinity of the Shire. Hi, this is Jeremy from Video Gamers Oasis speaking, and welcome to my podcast mini-series. We're on the final episode of this series. We are completing the section about the dark powers of Middle-earth from the book The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, Visual Companion, my reading and commentary. We're on the dark powers, and we're discussing the Urak-Hai and the Nazgûl from pages 68 to 71. Stay tuned. Video Gamers Oasis on YouTube presents podcast mini-series The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, Visual Companion, my reading and commentary. Hello again. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, Saturnalia, or Solstice. Thanks so much for joining me on this YouTube podcast miniseries. Video Gamers Oasis presents The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, Visual Companion. I'm your host, Jeremy. The date is December 29th, 2024. We're just this close to getting into January 2025. I am very excited. I hope you're excited as well. Now, this is the podcast miniseries where I've been reading this really beautifully illustrated picture book with a lot of interesting stories on the different characters from the Fellowship of the Ring classic movie by Peter Jackson. We are in the section of the book, The Dark Powers. Recently, we learned about the orcs, the gnarled, deformed, mutated versions of elves who turned into these violent, beast-like reptilian creatures. We learned about their origins and what they do and what they look like in the movie. Now we're moving on to 2 new chapters. Actually, these are the last chapters of the book. I'm kind of sad. I'm kind of excited at the same time because this is it's been a great journey for me on this channel. Learning about the Lord of the Rings characters and in-depth trivia. We just finished a trivia quiz number 3. Previous video. Watch that video if you haven't already. Click the link if you want to see that quiz questions and answers previous channel video. We're now on the Dark Powers, the Urak-Hai. That is on page 68 and 69. We're going to learn about the Urak-Hai, another beast monster that Frodo and his team have to face. And we're also going to learn about page 70 and 71, the Nazgûl, the most terrifying enemies of the movie, the wraith-like, also called wraith or ring wraiths that chase Frodo because he has the one ring of Sauron and they want it. So before we begin our storybook and illustration reading and looking at the different scenes from the movie, would you be so kind to send some likes and loves and subscribe to Video Gamers Oasis? Click the notification bell. I do appreciate it. This is mainly a video gaming as well as video game history channel, but I also enjoy fantasy and science fiction movies and stories. So if you want more content like this, click the subscribe button. Make sure that notification bell is wiggling. I do appreciate it. So now before we begin our reading, like always, I put on my reading glasses like so, making sure I can focus better, and I have my magnifying glass to magnify scenes in the movie as well as text that is difficult to read. So the dark powers on page 68 and 69. Let's begin. The dark powers. Seldom do orcs journey in the open, under the sun. Yet though that these have done so. It's a quotation from the movie. First paragraph. Beneath the citadel of Isengard, in the caverns deep beneath its tower, the wizard Saruman has been breeding his own race of super orcs, an army to rival that of Sauron, the Dark Lord. By crossing orcs with goblin men, he has created a race of creatures unparalleled in power and brutality. These are the Urak-Hai. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Taller and straighter than men, massively muscled, black-blooded and lynx-eyed. Tireless and considerably more intelligent and powerful than the Moauro orcs, they are a fearsome fighting breed, with their viciously efficient straight-bladed weapons and long-range bows, led by Lurtz, that's L-U-R-T-Z, Lurtz, the Urak-Hai of Isengard, are easily identifiable by the mark of the white hand of Saruman, which they bear in battle. You can see an illustration of one of the Urak-Hai here in the bottom right corner of the page. He's got the white hand of Saruman on his face. He's got a big machete-like sword blade on it in his right hand. He's got full of plate armor, leather armor. He's armed to the teeth. And in the left side, we see some more Urak-Hai in armor. They got some metal helmets on, swords and shields. Very muscular, very tough, very terrifying. And here is an illustration of Lurtz here, I assume, from the movie. I've seen the movie, but it's been a long time. We see Saruman the White gazing with excitement over his creation. He's almost like a Dr. Frankenstein in this movie. He's created a monster, a new creature, a blend of regular orcs with goblin men. And by combining their genetics, I guess, in the story, he has created a new form of creature, a powerful, muscular, tall, very tall and muscular, dangerous creature called the Urak-Hai. And I assume this is Lurtz, the leader. He's wearing a loincloth here. He's got bluish gray skin, black blood, as you'll learn later. He is very terrifying indeed. And supposedly, Saruman the White has created him and other Urak-Hais as a army in defense against Sauron soldiers. But those of us in the know, we know exactly what he's up to, and who know the story. So this is a really terrifying and warrior to battle with. Really, really, really dangerous. You can almost wonder. I'd like to know exactly who played him, but I'll provide a link. I'll provide some information about the actor. He looks like he could be a WWE wrestler if he wanted to. Really, really dangerous character. My cat just walked in. Okay, so that's Urak-Hai. That's the first monster we're going to discuss in this reading. The second monster we're going to talk about is on the next page. The dark powers, the Nazgûl. Yes, those infamous creatures that we've known that Frodo has to run away from often. These are undead riders that chase after Frodo because he has the One Ring. And let's read the paragraph right away. The 9 servants of Sauron. Here's their story. The Nazgûl, the 9 servants of Sauron. The Nazgûl were once great kings of men, to whom Sauron gave 9 of the rings of power, and with them the promise of eternal life and dominion. They took the rings without question, but their greed blinded them to the Dark Lord's true nature and likely treachery. One by one they fell under the power of the rings, their bodies and souls corrupted by the Dark Lord's evil, until at last they ceased to be human and became instead insubstantial wraiths. Faceless and formless, they have been worn away to terrifying ghouls, shrouded in black robes and armor. Next paragraph. Mounted upon their vast, black, flame-eyed steeds, they are known as the Black Riders. Their weapons are not merely swords of steel and flame, nor their maces and Morgul daggers, which carry a deadly poison. Their black breath also infects with despair and terror all those who are touched by it. No weapons can harm them, except for those made by the elves, and any blade that strikes them will perish. Recently, they have been seen in the vicinity of the Shire. So here's an illustration of the Black Riders, the Nazgûl, as they've been known as, with their black robes and armor. They got their swords out, they got their daggers, riding on their fiery-eyed horses. Terrifying creatures because they are practically immortal. No blade can hurt them, except elven blades. And their daggers and their weapons are toxic when they cut you, and also they have poison breath. I just wanted to mention, I really find these creatures fascinating. Of all the villains in that particular movie, of all the villains in that movie, they are probably the most fascinating of all the villains in that movie. They are just so mysterious because you don't really see their faces until, spoiler alert, Frodo puts on the ring and he's able to see their spirit form. They are ghost-like apparitions inside those robes, wearing crowns. And so Sauron promised them immortality and power, but with a great cost. As with all villains, powerful beings like Sauron, you got to make sure you don't bite off more than you can chew, because there may be some small print in the contract if they promise you power and immortality. So these creatures are very dangerous. I like the scene. I just want to mention, I like the scene before we move on, where Frodo had been, spoiler alert, injured by one of the Nazgûl. He's poisoned. He's on the verge of death because of the toxic blade, and Arwen has rescued him and she's carrying him on her steed, and she's on the way to find a cure at her father's home. And they're approaching. They're running closer and closer. They're still coming after Frodo. And there's a scene where she goes, "You want him? Claim him." And I love that scene where she uses water magic, spoiler alert, and she defeats all the ring race with watery horses that drowned them, I guess, washed them away like dirt on clothing. Really great scene, really monumental, great fantasy story. That was the Nazgûl, my friends. We just learned about the Nazgûl, and that is the last chapter of this book. Here's all the text, the credits here. Jude Fisher is the author, and there's some information you could read on your own. Basically, that is the book, my friends. We've just finished reading The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, Visual Companion, and that was our discussion of this classic movie. It's very spoiler-free, mostly. It's illustrations and some minor articles from the movie. If you enjoyed this discussion of The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, Visual Companion, send some likes and loves. I do appreciate it. Subscribe to Video Gamers Oasis. Click the notification bell if you want more fantasy content, more fantasy movies, science fiction movies as well, books. Want me to discuss more books in the future? I also want to discuss more video game related books. I'm planning to do some video game content. I know this is a video game website. I should be doing more video game content. Well, in addition to some gaming videos, some Mario games and some classic retro gaming, I am going to do some more books on gaming in the future, some mini podcasts as well. But if you want to see more content like this, please let me know in the comments. I do enjoy this. I'm probably going to be, in the future, be discussing the Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers, as well as the Return of the King in the future. But there you have it. That's our discussion. I had a good time. I certainly hope you had a good time. We're going to take a little break from this. We're going to get close to New Year's. I'm going to have a quiz on all the dark powers in the future. But we're going to take a little break for the year, for this year, until New Year's Eve. We'll see how my friend Hayden is doing. With or without him, I am going to do a quiz on this final section. Anyway, so you make sure to review the discussion that we just had. I do appreciate you doing that. I'm Jeremy from Video Gamers Oasis, wishing you a happy, healthy, and prosperous New Year 2025. Take care of each other. If you drink, don't drive. Care for those who are less fortunate than you. Make sure that when you drive carefully for the sake of the children and elderly people. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.